Well, I just had a fantastic game against Bryant1985, so I'm really hoping that this game plays out completely without flaws. He is playing Vendilion Click, and I'm playing Sliver Queen. For some reason my hand is being displayed in the wrong place. I'm just trying to make this work here. Okay, so there it is. And let's get the sound off. So he won the dice roll, I think. Oh, excuse me, I won the dice roll, apparently. And against Vendilion Click, for the most part, their deck is about Click. So if you can just deal with that card, then generally what they have is a deck filled with counterspells, and that means you have like all the time in the world to try to set up some other play. The control deck that I'm playing doesn't have the kind of counterspell density that these MonoBlue Click decks tend to run, so I have to win with non-counterspells. But unfortunately, because of what Click does, I actually have to fight a counter battle over the Click in the beginning of the game before I can actually try to win with other cards later. So I set it up by Demonic Tutoring for Hinder and then Vampiric Tutoring for Bant Charm. And I've got a Terminus in hand, so that's 3 different possible ways I can fight with him about the Vendilion Click. And now at this point I've got Muddle backing up a Bant Charm, so I'm pretty solid. So I just ice, even though it'll kill a Click, I don't care about that. I'm just trying to dig for counters or mana. And fortunately I was able to find a Scroll Rack and a Force, so Scroll Rack's really good against these blue decks because whenever you're playing against control, specifically because you get to dump creature removal and things that you don't need in the search for land encounters. I'm going to minimize Queen. So correctly, he sees that I had tapped land and he goes for it with Click. So I fight the Hinder battle. Taps out for a Rune Snag. I force with Muddle, since I want to hold Bant Charm and Terminus as backup possible plans. Unfortunately, he doesn't have Force or Daze or something, so I'm out 3 cards, but I'm not under pressure. So he facts, and I really was unsure how to split this up, but ultimately I decided to do it like this: 2 expensive counterspells or 1 cheap one and a couple of lands. Of course, you really are just looking for lands and counters in this, so he takes the 3 pile, which makes sense. But because I had Winter Orb, I was hoping I could just catch him at some point, get him to pact, and then slam the orb down and win. So I figure, okay, well, let's try to use Power Stone as bait. And that doesn't work out. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay, because I've got a Power Stone. But it turns out he's got a Capsize. So now what's happening is, at the end of his turn, I go ahead and get some new cards. So what's going to happen is, if I keep playing this Power Stone, he keeps bouncing it. My 3 mana is going to lock up 6 of his. That seems pretty solid. But I want to, because I have the Winter Orb and he's doing it on his main phase, and I'm trying to talk him into using that pact, I try to counter his Capsize anyway. But no dice. I don't really want to bait with Karn. That's kind of a follow-up play, not a bait play. So what I do is I Wargate for 1. And the thought here is, if I can resolve the Wargate for 1 and put tax out, then he's going to have to So he remands it. He's going to have to spend 6 mana to capsize either a tax or a scroll rack, which are cheaper to put out than the Worn Power Stone. So anyway, he remands it, so I ramp out the stone anyway, leaving the monolith. This gives me the option to untap the monolith at the end of his turn. So he's continuing to fight with the stone, and he throws down shackles that, as long as I don't mess up and play queen, aren't going to matter. So I try my Wargate for 1, and it resolves. So now I've got a tax out. And I shuffle away my cards and get down this way. Now I probably should have played the Watery Grave, paid 2 life, thrown down the Crypt, and then untapped the Grim Monolith at the end of his turn. But I was concerned that Crypt might put me on some kind of a timer, similar to him having his commander, with some unlucky flips. I've already got a City of Brass going, and I would have paid 2 life to make that play. I figured I could always make it again, so. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a counter for tax. So I just swap out into the Worn Power Stone, and this time I decide, okay, I'm going to throw the Crypt down and untap the Grim. So he bounces tax again. Down it comes. I switch into Terminus for really not any big reason here, but I'm hoping that I'll get a chance to actually tax. So I go for tax, Karn, and Winter Orb all in one turn, and if I can get a shuffle off, I didn't want to have swords in my hand, I wanted Terminus in my hand. That way, on the off chance that I needed to use it, I could just scroll rack it back on top of my deck and draw it like a miracle. But he's got Cryptic Command, so I figured, alright, let me just get the doggone negate out of his hand. The pact out of his hand, rather. Even though I'm doing it with Winter Orb, it's painful. But this way, it might make him hesitate to bounce the land tax. And if I get to tax, I know I win. So, unfortunately, he doesn't hesitate. So, what ends up happening, though, is that he's tapped a great deal of mana. And so at this point, I know that these cards are all junk, and I need Scroll Rack to perform a miracle for me. Well, not a miracle. But there it is. So now I've got a way to continue to apply pressure. And I can start gradually destroying his hand until I reach that capsize. The beautiful thing here, of course, is that I have enough mana to Cryptic. Even with a strip mine, I still have enough blue. So I can always tap that Grim. So he plays Bribery, does me a big favor and shuffles my library and reduces his hand size by 1. But I don't play creatures. I don't play creatures because of Bribery initially. These days it's because of humility. But for a long, long time I got very sick of fighting over Bribery or losing to Bribery or even just being set back by Bribery, so I cut creatures. And then when I came across humility in my mental backlog of strong cards to play in a creatureless deck, it made this deck so much better that I don't think I'll go back to using creatures. There are creatures you can use with humility, like suspend creatures or creatures with cycling abilities or Phyrexian Metamorph. But I just figured, I've seen Bribery so many times in so many blue decks. Why give them any targets? The only fear is Telemann performance. And that's a rarely played card, and it's something I will fight over. So note what happened here. He bounced Vess and allowed me to tax. I didn't fight over the bounce because replaying a Vess is no problem. If you look, my hand is like 6 cards huge now. So here comes the Vess again, And if I pull the counter out of his hand, that leaves only one card, the moderately annoying boomerang on a stick. And there it goes. So now he's in top deck mode, and that's where we want him to be. And basically, if he doesn't top deck something great here, then we're set. And it looks like the game's locking up. Another okay, well, that's the end of the game. I'll show you the deck list next and quickly describe what happens. He top decks something that is not relevant, either a counterspell or a land or whatever, and then I'm able to get another tax activation. I vest, and then I scroll rack, and I find mystical teachings, and then so I use mystical teachings to set up, basically, and vest to set up a big Tezzeret kill backed up by counter spells and an empty hand. So deck list coming. I really wish that oh that's the type 1 deck I was working on. Sorry. Let's load it up. Alright, here it is. This is the Queen deck, and hopefully you enjoyed the game, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.